Hey guys, it's yours truly, Music Clues here,
Hey, subscribers, it's Ethan here.
and welcome back to a brief update video. This isn't like a huge update, but me and Ethan wanted to let you guys know about a special video that me and Ethan have been working on for years and years and years, and now we're finally getting around to doing it this year. Hopefully by the end of this year, probably December more than likely. But the reason why we're saying all this is because some of you may remember, but a while back, me and Ethan did our best of all time and our worst of all time lists.
Yeah, we did these videos way back. We were like, but Go Gamers or whatever we were back then. But I'm not gonna keep mentioning about our past, really, just for the sake of it. But I'll say this though, we had those lists back then, but now this is gonna be just updated because we play more games as we go, really.
Exactly. Back then, the latest console was the 3DS, and me and Ethan really only had Nintendo to go off of, as well as very little experience with Xbox and PlayStation.
I mean, I did play the PS2 way back then, of course, until I played more Nintendo, but besides the point. But this time around, we play more than just Nintendo or Sony or Microsoft this time around.
Yes, we've played a lot more Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo now this time around, as well as quite a few indies. So I figured that it would be a good idea that this time we could update the list and redo it. Do it. Now, just so you guys know, for the worst of all time list, that will be one whole video. Since we're only going to have 20 games each that he and I are going to go over individually for our list. So that one's going to be one whole video.
And to warn you though, some of our opinions, just a warning, it could be a little controversial. But I cannot say what it is, but it's just a little warning ahead of time.
Now, just so you know, we will be excluding games that are in controversies themselves. So like a certain shark game that a lot of you know about.
And some, I cannot say the word, but it's to do with the popular wizard game. That's all I have to say.
Exactly. So for that reason alone, those will not be included in the list, even though we do have our opinions about it. It's just, yeah. No. And also, both of us have not played them either, so it's just not really worth it for us to even discuss, because I'm trying to only go off our list off of stuff we've actually played and played at least a little bit, or enough that we can talk about it, or beaten in this case.
I have beaten most of these games we were talking about, but according to those ones you mentioned, but I'm not going to say what just for the sake of it. But I'll say this though, and I'm just going to give you a warning ahead of time. There'll be some controversies.
Yes, there will be some controversial opinions about our worst of all times list, but that one will be one big video. Even if it's about an hour long, it will be one big video, because we only have 20 games, and that's 40 games total for us to talk about. So that one will be a lot shorter.
Yup.
And more than likely, we won't be changing too much stuff around, because worst of all time list for me was easy to come up with, but Ethan,
I have a few are like, no.
Yeah. There's a few that Ethan doesn't really dislike too many games. I'm going to be fair here. So it's a little harder for him.
I mean, I have some games I'm not a huge fan of, but I just prefer to not think about it. But all I can do is just tell you why I think it's the worst of all time. But just remember, our list is our base of our own opinions, not the rankings of like everybody's thoughts, like reviewers. Like, we're not reviewers per se. We're just spilling our own opinions. That's it.
Exactly. Now for our best of all time list. Well, that's the big one. So many of you may remember that our original list, we did up to 50.
Yes, and
And as you guys know, we did a whole video on that.
Yes, and I can give you my recap. What my number one is. Okay, I'll give you my recap of my number one. Still, I really still remember this one at least. Spar one was originally my top number one, but this time around, you think it's gonna be still number one? Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Hold your horses there, guys. It's just because back then I still have a good childhood altogether.
Exactly. But Ethan's opinion has changed since then. And to remind you guys, my top number one was Fire Emblem Warriors. Safe to say that was replaced with a franchise that I actually really love.
Well, it could be it's still on the list or not on the list, depending what he wants to do with it.
Agreed. But yeah, so the best of all time is going to be split up into 3 different parts this time. It's still 50 games that me and Ethan chose, but to make it easier for everybody to consume and easier on us, just in case you need to change something into sections, me and Ethan will be splitting up into 3 parts. So the first part will include top 50 to 30. Our second part will be top 29 to 10.
Yep.
And then the last video will be 9 to 1.
Yep.
So basically, what I'm trying to say is, for each of these lists, there will be an individual score for both. There will be an individual one for both. This is to both make sure that me and Ethan, because while part one will probably largely stay the same, because I don't think Ethan and I are going to switch too much around on the bottom half of the list. Even said 2 games in specific are probably not going to switch places.
Yeah, so what also happens is it's going to take a little work, obviously, but last time we didn't have those pictures or those images that you just put in your hand and just shows a game.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna try to actually work on doing that this time, so it shows that there's a little bit more effort put into this top 10 list.
I mean, we're not gonna just put our list that is in the screen, like it says this game's that number, this game's in that number, this game's that number. But we could just do that after that one specific video, give you a recap of the whole thing again.
Yes, exactly.
That's after we do our own list, that is.
Exactly. So, just a heads up on that as well. But like I was saying, this is to make sure, because the top 20s, maybe if it may switch a couple things around, and then depending on how this year's goes, which is why I said it's not till the end of this year, because by December, there's probably going to be nothing else coming out, so that's...
And if you guys are wondering, hey, what about Final Fantasy 14 you mentioned about, Ethan? That, of course... Now, this is something that I will talk about it later.
Yeah.
I can't mention it that much, because I'm still in the progress of being more packs later.
Yeah, so...
I can't talk about that, unfortunately.
Yeah, but... Yeah, that being said, that is the reason why this is also being split up into 3 parts. So if me and Ethan have any last minute changes, he and I can adjust accordingly. Now, in terms of the rules for this list, here's how it goes. 1, me and Ethan have to have beaten the game or have played at least a decent chunk of it to talk about it.
Decent chunk. Remember that, decent chunk.
Now, I can say that a majority of the games on this list I have either beaten or have played a good chunk of it that I can talk about it. But about it, none of the games on this list are stuff that I have not played.
Me, though, I would definitely say the list of mine, most of them are going to be decently played, and most of them actually are the ones beaten, by the way. Well, my side of the list.
Yeah, so... that is the case. None of this is games that we just think are cool. None of them are games that we just haven't watched on YouTube and think are good because we haven't played those ourselves. So they're all games that me and Ethan have beaten for sure.
Yes, and play decent chunk for sure. But we're just assuring you we're not gonna try to break the rules or something.
Yes. Second rule. Speaking of which. The games have to be ones that he and I have also played, if we've beaten the game, it has to be one. It has to be a game that we have either beaten to the end or 100%.
Yes, yes. And I did complete some games before, but not all of them are just completed as completionist. I do buy just complete mostly the stories or stuff like that. I do complete some games before, but not all of them completely.
Exactly. Now, rule number 3. If you cannot choose between one game and a series of games, you are allowed to put the series on there as well. Well, I'll have a limit of 10 series of games. So if you want to put a series or a trilogy on there instead because you just can't choose, that is okay. Okay, but a maximum of 10.
Yup, and I also have another rule to add to that, of course, when we go down as we are talking.
Yes. But yeah, so series, if you can't choose, you're allowed to put it, but the maximum limit is 10. The minimum limit, if you must add, is at least 5.
Yes.
Five. But yeah, maximum is 10 at most because you also have to give individual games some spotlight as well. I can say with my list, I don't really have too many series on it. Only maybe like 1, 2, or maybe even 3 series that I just had a hard time choosing individual games for. Simply just because of childhood nostalgia, or just I can't.
Well, with me though, for me, I can't say that I do have a series that I'm gonna have like put it down to the list, but for me though, I would be honest with you, I have barely say I have like the list that I would say I would put a series down because maybe I just have a different opinions on each game really. But if it's specifically Final Fantasy 14 with all the packs, that's fair too.
Agreed. All right. Now talk about this next rule, buddy, that you mentioned.
Yes, the rule I was gonna say is okay. So as we remember, MC put most of the ties more than me. This time around, we're gonna change things around this time. This time, you can combine a game tie with another game with a specific number or a series. To put it simple, you have to do it up to 5 times, which means me and MC have to do it 5 times. Over 5, you're out. No more.
Exactly. So you can only tie a game 5 times. You can tie as many games as you want, but it can only be you can only do 5 different ties at any point on the list. I will say right now, at the moment, I don't really have too many ties. I think I have like 3 or 4 different ties.
It's just an estimate so far. It's not like complete. Say he knows. It's just estimated for you. Just keep that in mind.
So yes, there are 3 or 4 different ties.
I have some ties myself, but I can't say what it is, unfortunately.
Exactly. So at the moment there is. Now for specific genres as well. 1. RPGs. For RPGs, you must at least play to a halfway point or beaten the game for it to count. And in Ethan's case, there is a lot of RPGs that he's actually beaten. For me, I have not beaten too many, so that's why a good chunk of my list was completely revamped, because I have not beaten all that many RPGs.
I mean, he did play a few RPGs before, but not like all the way through as you mentioned.
So that's why the list was revamped. So for Ethan's case, he must have been the RPG all the way through. And if it's a trilogy of RPG games, like they have an overreaching story, Ethan must have beaten all 3 games first.
Like for example, we're gonna talk about Final Fantasy 13. That's an example you was talking about.
Exactly. Ethan's played the first 2 games, but he has not played Lightning Returns.
And I haven't beaten those due to because the PS3 we have was just shut down itself.
Yeah, so for Ethan, so in Ethan's case, he cannot put that. But a game he could put will be the Exo Saga trilogy, since he's beaten all 3 of those games.
Yeah, I can't say for sure, but But I can't say either I'll tie all three or tie two or say specifically because it pretty much I spoil it for you.
Yeah, so there's that as well. Now for platformers, you have to have at least gotten to most Get Wolves games usually have at least 5 worlds. So at most, you have to at least get to world being the first world or gotten to world 5 for it to count. Because by that point, you would have had a decent chunk of experience.
Oh, I have decent chunk of some experience with it. Some platformers like Crash, Spyro, some Sonic games. I cannot say all Sonic games. Mario for sure. I have some experience. Of course, that's all I can say, really.
Exactly. And then finally, for any like relaxing games like Animal Crossing and stuff, you must have put at least a decent chunk of hours into the game for it to count, or at least beaten the story keyword story for it to count as well.
Yes, and of course, if you're talking about Sims, for example, there might be some story based on there. I'm not so sure 100%, but I did play it before. But I can tell you right now, it's never gonna be in my list. Or I cannot say worse either because I had to play most of them to know to make it fair.
Exactly. So that is the rules specifically for those genres. Now on to the worst of all time list rules. 1. Last time when me and Ethan did the worst of all time, it was games that we've watched and played. This time, to keep in the theme of the best of all time, it has to be games that me and Ethan have 100% played all the way through. Whether that be through rental, through each other, or we've unfortunately purchased ourselves.
And okay, so basically what he's trying to say is it's either we beat the game, play it a little bit, I believe in that, if I'm mistaken. It cannot be just watched either, unfortunately. You have to just play a little bit to count, or beat all the way through, or play in the middle would to count. So to say, you have to play it to make it count.
Exactly. Last time me and Ethan included games that we didn't necessarily play. So this time around, we're going to actually include games that we've actually played and considered to be our least favorites. Now, I will say Ethan's probably going to be a lot more interesting than me because I have very few games I hate.
Well, that's because some of my opinions can be a little controversial. And I warned you earlier. I warned you ahead of time.
Agreed. So, yeah, that is the rule for that. Second rule is it can also be a game that you have unfortunately purchased via gift or something else, or if you were hyped about it but in the end actually ended up disliking it and now look like your purchase.
Well, that could count, of course. I'm sure it can. What you said about the gift, right?
Yep, a gift too.
Well, okay. Mostly for me, I do remember the one game specifically, but it happened. Like you said, I can actually count it because I played it.
And Ethan still regrets it to this day. If you know, you know.
Of course, there's another game too behind it. Actually, a couple of games than just what I just mentioned. But of course, there's several games we talked about. I cannot mention them in the channel because conversely would just be like,
it's not worth it. But yeah, that being said, those are the only real 2 rules. The first one is a stickler. I'm going to be a stickler on. Me and Ethan have to have played it for sure for it to count on the list. And thankfully, for all the games on this on my side, I have played every single one of them a decent chunk. So I can definitely tell you my opinion. I will say a good majority of it is Nintendo, though.
Yup.
I know, not too much variety, unfortunately, but I have a very big opinion, including one particular Mario game. No, it's not what you think it is, guys. It's actually something different.
Yes. He did play like some Sony games and Microsoft games. He could tell you those in the future.
Yes, but in terms of favorites and least favorites, I haven't played a decent chunk of the franchises on Sony and Microsoft's end to really know. So I'm gonna hold off on those for later, which is why a good majority of the list is, like I said, Nintendo and indies, and probably maybe even a few Sonic games.
Yes.
As for Ethan, like I said, he's gonna have a lot more variety than me because he has quite a few games that he does not like.
Of course. And, well, like I warned you earlier, some can be controversy. And no. Remember, it's not the ones that have controversy opinions on it. Like for example, some of the games we talked about, I cannot say much again, but it's not going to be those two games we mentioned. Remember that.
Exactly. It basically could be ones that even that have no controversial opinion, controversy attached to them, but have controversial opinions on whether people like it or dislike it.
Yes, and it could be mixed, or it could be like if someone said, "Oh, you love Jump Force," but that's a mixed opinion. Like, yeah, I know.
Exactly. So yeah, but yeah. That being said, like I said, my number one may or may not surprise you this time. May not surprise you for the worst of all time. I'll be fair here. It's not that big of an opinion, but it might throw a couple Mario fans off guard because it's not what you think it is.
Yeah, we're gonna have to just keep it to ourselves till we get to that point.
Yes, exactly. And as for Ethan's, I have no clue what his number one's going to be this time.
Well, that's because I played a majority of it this time around, and I forget which one was my least favorite time, but it's been a long few years we have those videos.
So, yeah. That being said, if I still have them in the archive somewhere, I'll post a video so you guys can see what our lists were like back then. And if any of you comment asking if any of those games are on the list still, I'll have to be sadly very vague.
I mean, I can't say much, unfortunately.
But yeah, now, like I said, for the best, so when are both of these videos coming out? For the best and worst of all time, the worst of all time will probably come out a little bit later next year because that one's going to take the least amount of effort for both of us to do, and I just want to be 100% sure that there's no other terrible games that we play this year as well. So that one's going to be until next year.
Yes, and of course, I can't say when we're going to record it either because it's just because, like other YouTubers out there, we record videos, but we tell you when to get them out or not. So keep this in mind. For YouTubers, we can just keep it to ourselves when we record them, unfortunately.
Yeah, and for all I know, depending on how work goes and stuff, I might not get more videos out sooner. Now, as for the best of all time, I can tell you right now that I am aiming to get that out by December, because one, we know for a fact, I know for a fact that there's not going to be anything coming out game-wise in December. Final Fantasy Classic Score is probably the one in recent years that's a major title that's come out in December, but outside of that, really, December's usually a dead month, so by December, me and Ethan will probably have at least part 1 out.
Yes, so, another thing is, we'll probably more likely just tell you an update on our recordings are. We can do that, but we cannot assure you that it's going to be out of the civic time. It depends what happens.
Exactly. I can tell you for sure the best of all time will probably not be, at least for part 1, not be until the end of this year, because we have to wait until see how this year goes, since we have several major games on the pipeline coming up.
Oh, even pipeline for me, even this year.
So, best of all time for sure, not until at least later this year.
Yup.
But worst of all time for sure next year, so look forward to that as well. But yeah, alright guys, that is all for now. I am so excited to finally do this list after such a long time.
Yup.
It's been such a long time coming. I know a lot of you have been a little bit impatient. I am very excited to redo this list for you, and hopefully, if I find it in our archives, I'll try to repost a best of all time from before, so you guys can see what it was like before me and Ethan did those lists.
Yes, and that was us back then when we played most of the Nintendo, and of course I did say my PS2 games back then. But then until right around before, like, I don't know what year exactly, but I know that we know each other more better now than we were back then. So for right now, this time around, it's gonna be like we have more variety of games this time.
Agreed. Back then, I was heavily leaning on my Nintendo in my childhood. Now I have Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation to go off of as well as my childhood. So this should be a lot easier.
Yup.
And Ethan has a lot more experience too. He was just solely leaning on Nintendo and PlayStation experience from the PlayStation 2. Now Ethan's played a variety of games from across PlayStation's history, so it's going to make it a lot easier for
I
him.
played some indies too, actually, to keep that in mind. But to be honest, out of the two of us who played indies the most would be MC. For we know, because back then for me, I played like mostly AAA's on the PS2 mostly, and I got diverted into that.
Exactly. So, Ethan's probably gonna have a lot less indies on his best of all time list than I will.
I mean, I'll have some indies on there for sure, obviously.
But probably, maybe at most, max 5. At worst, he'll probably have like 1 or 2 at least. But I think at max will probably be 5. I have like 6 or 7 on my list.
Yeah, not just to say because I'm not each fan of the indies. I mean, yeah, I may not be like. That's just because it's hard for me to find which ones are like easier for me to get into. Then again, because I grew up with like that we said earlier, the classic consoles like PS2, GameCube, or Sega Genesis. We're talking about those from my end, though.
Exactly. Now, if you're wondering if I could give at least one game that's going to be on the list, I can give you one, just one. That's it. Sonic Frontiers is somewhere on the list, in case you were wondering.
We cannot say what number it is because again, it's a little spoiler. We don't want spoilers in this video.
But Sonic Frontiers is somewhere on the list. Only problem is where. Did I think it wasn't super great? Granted, it's in the lower half of the list. Did I think it was okay, good enough to be in the medium part, or do I highly regard it as one of my favorite games?
I mean, I do have some following games on my list as well, but I cannot say which ones exactly, unfortunately, because, again, we said earlier, no spoilers in this video.
Agreed. And I just gave you a major one that Sonic Frontiers is somewhere on my list, in case a lot of you were curious. So
Same with me, sort of ish, but I said following games, not game.
Yes, you didn't specify any of them, so for all you know, he could be putting Fire Shadow Dragon on there. Even though I don't think he's gonna do that.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. Of course, I can't spoil anything, unfortunately.
Exactly. But here's the question: are most of Ethan's Fire Moon games in the lower half of his list, or does Ethan highly got quite a few of them?
Yeah. Then again, like we say, of course, the list progress right now is in right now. But the thing is, I'm gonna have to more likely rearrange the list depending where it is. But unless I forget the game to put in, then I'll take it out and put it in. But I just gotta do it when we have enough time.
Yes. So for Ethan, he is currently still working on his list. I have mine completed. So all I need to do is adjust as I go. We're checking in every few months to work on this list, so that way it gives us some time to play more games. But in the meantime, Ethan is still working on his list for the best of all time. So it's gonna be a while before we're both completely ready.
Yep.
But that being said, I hope you guys are looking forward to the best of all time revamped. And the worst of all time revamped. But just a reminder, this is our opinions. You don't have to agree with every single one of us. If you have a game that you disagree with us on any of our lists, heck, even now, let us know in the comments below. And also, let us know in the comments below what you think is on our list. Well, we won't confirm or deny it, but we will say either good guess or yeah. But yeah. Alright guys, that is all for now. This is yours truly, Music Clues.
Then, signing out.
And y'all have a nice
gaming day.
See ya.